And I'm proud to say Mr. Marri, who is a very well-known Baloch leader, who himself was a victim of the terrorism laws and who has been released, after the jury heard the evidence in his particular trial. And thanks to Bernberg Pierce, Gareth Pierce, and Helena Kennedy, several other lawyers, it was a very successful outcome of this trial. Now, we feel it is important that you, Tamils, also know about the experiences of these people. And maybe, there are ways and means to come together and to unite on certain particular issues here, where we can make the campaign against the terrorism law and therefore the appeal, to get rid of these laws much stronger than through one community. So I really do appeal to you to consider this and to take it back and maybe discuss it. So I'm very pleased that Mr. Marri is here, and he will talk about the Baloch struggle and obviously also his own situation. Because of course it's important to know that an issue like the Tamils, which was silenced over years here, what was actually going on, a similar thing is happening to the Baloch people today on the borders of on Pakistan, but also in Iran. And of course the Kurds we will have as the last speaker. This is an issue which is similarly important to understand for the wider struggle. So,
I thank Kemper and Estella for giving us this opportunity to speak here. I would like to start my discussion with a brief look at history of Balochistan and then to discuss the current situation in Balochistan. The Baloch have a long history of struggle against repression and oppression by the Pakistani and Iranian states. Our history, however, predates the formation of both Pakistan and Iran. The Baloch have a history which goes back thousands of years. During the British Raj, Britain annexed a strip of land adjoining Afghanistan and named it British Balochistan. The Baloch tirelessly campaigned for independence during the final decades of the British Raj. When the British left Indian subcontinent, Baloch declared their independence on August 11, 1947. Balochistan remained a sovereign state until it was forcefully annexed by Pakistan Army on 27 March 1948. Iran had already occupied western part of Balochistan in 1928. Iran's occupation of western Balochistan was a part of ploy by the British to bring Iran on their side against the Russian extension. Since the occupation, Iran and Pakistan have used brute force to subjugate the Baloch. The international community, by keeping silence, have legitimized the forceful occupation of Baloch land and the inhuman treatment committed against them. The current spate of violence in Balochistan started in early 2000, when the Pakistani dictator Musharraf came into power through an illegal military action. Pakistan Army have used modern lethal weapons like phosphorus cluster bombs, which are supplied by the West against the innocent Baloch. Hundreds of thousands of Baloch people have been displaced, many thousands killed, and thousands have been extrajudicially abducted by the Pakistani intelligence agency ever since. Relatives have tried all peaceful means to find out whereabouts of their loved ones who have disappeared without a trace to no avail. There are currently more than 6,000 people missing in eastern Balochistan occupied by Pakistan. During Musharraf's dictatorship, hundreds of Baloch, including top Baloch leaders Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti and Nawabzada Baloch Marri, one of my brothers, have been murdered. Apparently, Musharraf has got away with these crimes. In fact, it was Musharraf, the Pakistani Pinochet, and the Jadi army who have created the two most deadliest organizations Al-Qaeda and Taliban. They are two most destructive fundamentalist organizations. They are hell-bent to destroy secular nations, both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Ironically, he is presently treated as a celebrity and is giving lectures to the international community on terrorism. No one so far within the international community has challenged him for crimes that he and his cronies have committed in Balochistan. Besides, all other criminal army generals come and stay in Western countries after their retirement. Instead of holding them accountable for their crimes, they are given centuries to carry out with their lavish lifestyle. Even though a new government came into power after 2008 election in Pakistan, but their policy towards Balochistan is much the same. The faces have changed, but the biased, brutal and corrupt system is still in place, unfortunately. During this so-called democratically elected government, three top Baloch leaders, namely Ghulam Mohammad Baloch, Lala Munir Baloch and Sher Mohammad Baloch, were abducted by Pakistani intelligence agencies. From their lawyer's office in broad daylight, severely tortured for a few days and finally murdered in cold blood. Their bodies were found in a deserted area after a week. Similar atrocities are also being committed against Baloch people by the Islamic regime of Iran in western occupied Balochistan. Today, hardly a single day goes by without arrest, torture, execution of innocent Baloch people. Problem of smaller nations and responsibility of the international community. If we take a look at the struggle experienced by occupied nations, there is a realization that such struggles have always been ignored by the international community. The Western democracies, instead of siding with the oppressed, are backing the oppressors. They are collaborating with Turkey against the secular Kurdish movement. They have helped Sri Lankan against the Tamils, and they are siding with Pakistan against the Baloch people. Their biased approach has to stop, and international community must urge these occupying states to stop the slaughter of oppressed nations and abide by international laws. Such discriminatory action of the international community have compelled the occupied nations to stand up to these states, and sometimes they are forced to take extreme steps in their own defense. Nations like Kurd, the Tamils, and the Baloch are pushed against the wall and left with no option but to resist the state brutalities and to defend themselves. These oppressive states, especially Pakistan, have benefited from international laws on terrorism and war on terror. Pakistan is protecting terrorists and using the war on terror as a weapon to blackmail the West. Unfortunately, instead of holding Pakistan responsible, the West is ignoring the crimes and complying with their unjustified demands. A recent example is the proscription of Baloch liberation struggle in the UK and the arrest of my colleague and myself on flimsy terrorism charges. One can understand why Pakistan would proscribe secular Baloch movement, because Pakistan wants to justify the human rights violation in Balochistan in the name of fight against terrorism. The UK had no excuse for proscribing the secular Baloch liberation movement, but to please the Pakistani dictator Musharraf. The UK, however, should know that if it was not for the secular Baloch people in the region, today Balochistan would have been full of Taliban extremists. Imagine how hard it would be to tackle extremism in an area twice as big as the UK, full of